This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. It's episode 204 from the Subway to Shea studios in my office. A little bit of a Mets midweek report here. And joining me to talk about all the news surrounding this Mets team right now is Pat Ragazzo at Ragazzo Report. If you're following him on X, you'll find him there. And Mets reporter, publisher for Mets on SI, part of Sports Illustrated. Pat, it's great to have you back on the show, man.
For having me.
All right, you got a lot to talk about here, and I want to start off with Tylor Megill. He was placed on the injured list, retroactive to June 15th. With the right elbow sprain. He'll miss a month at the least. 4 to 5 weeks is the best case scenario. And the Mets brought back Justin Garza from Syracuse here. Now, Tylor Megill, he really struggled in his start on Saturday. 3 2/3 innings pitched, gave up 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Felt pulling in his elbow on the off-speed pitches he was throwing. MRI revealed a lot of inflammation, but there was no ligament damage to him. He's been shut down for at least the next 7 to 10 days before being reevaluated. Now, his last 7 starts, he's been 2-3, 5.57 ERA. He's given up 33 hits, 20 earned runs, and 18 walks in 32 1/3 innings pitched. And overall this season, 5-5, 3.95 ERA in 14 starts. Carlos Mendoza said that there's going to be a spot starter to take his place on Friday, but who is that going to be? Because Sean Manaea, he's going to pitch on Friday, but he's got another rehab start. You got Montas pitching today, Wednesday, and it seems like Blade Tidwell could be a possibility. Justin Hageman, who can only be recalled if someone goes on IL, and then you got Brandon Sproat and Nolan McLean, but they have to be put on the 40-man roster. So what do you say on this?
I think that the Mets are more likely to go with someone on the 40-man roster. Blade Tidwell makes a lot of sense. Justin Hageman, the options are kind of limited because they do just plan on having one of these guys make a spot start and then go back down to the minors. So Tidwell, the fact that they'd have to IL someone to bring Hageman back, it probably means that Tidwell's going to be the one who gets the second start of the season. But I would be very surprised and almost shocked if it is Sproat or McLean.
And it seems like Tidwell's starts just to line up with that Friday spot start, correct?
Yeah, no, he lines up to pitch Friday, as does McLean. But again, McLean, they'd have to make room on the 40-man roster, and I just don't see them doing that for a spot starter.
I got Jeff Cohen in the chat here saying, can this Megill elbow injury be a kind of prelude to Tommy John surgery? Every time we hear something about the elbow, that's the first thing that comes to everybody's mind. They're saying it's not too bad. We just don't know yet. And, it's a possibility. Could it be?
I would say worst case scenario. I mean, right now, that's not the case. He got the MRI and it showed a lot of inflammation around the elbow, but they didn't say if he's going to have to get re-examined. I imagine he probably will be once he's reevaluated, if he's going to get another MRI to see, because once that inflammation clears, you can maybe see the ligaments a little bit better. But he did say as of yesterday that the ligaments and everything are intact, which is great news. And best case scenario is he'll be back in 4 to 5 weeks.
DMAC is asking about Brandon Waddell, the possibility of seeing him come up and maybe, even if it's not a spot start, maybe open up the game.
I haven't heard his name mentioned, and it's probably a similar deal as Hageman, that they would probably have to IL someone, because I'm pretty sure he was up less than 15 days ago. And they optioned him, and the rule is you have to keep him down for 15 days unless somebody goes to the IL. So I think that's the reason why he's not, why his name hasn't been mentioned. And also it doesn't seem like he lines up to pitch on Friday.
It just makes more sense. And it seems like everything's aligning for Blade Tidwell to be the one that comes in, makes the spot start in Philadelphia against the Phillies there. This rotation keeps taking hits here. Beginning of spring, we had a rotation of, it could have been Senga, Manaea, Montas, Peterson, Holmes. You had Megill, Canning, Blackburn. 4 of them are on the IL right now, and all we have is Peterson, Holmes, Canning, Blackburn, and that question mark who's probably going to be Tidwell for this next start. Now, I got to ask you this, is there any chance, and I know they kind of nipped this in the bud, but considering all the injuries, is there any chance that Jose Butto gets stretched out a little bit here? I mean, he has the starter's experience. I know they want to kind of keep him in that bullpen type role, but he hasn't had the success coming in multiple days, and that struggle from the postseason last year has seemed to kind of come into this season a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's been up and down this year for sure, and I haven't heard him as being an option, but a couple more injuries here, and they might have to consider the fact that they may have to stretch him out if it comes to that, but. I don't think it will. I think they've defined his role as a long reliever, and as a starter, he showed some flashes last year, but at the same time struggled with his command, and that's why he went down to Syracuse last year to work on that command. He was walking too many guys, and then he came back and found a role in the bullpen, and that's where they want to keep him.
Now, considering all these injuries, do you think that the Mets will prioritize going after a starting pitcher at the trade deadline? A lot of talk the last couple of weeks was, well, they'll go after a reliever. They need someone since AJ Minter and Danny Young got hurt. Could be a setup guy to help out Edwin Diaz. Maybe they'll look into center field. The name Cedric Mullins was thrown around. But now you're thinking about, the starting pitching. Is that more of a possibility now that the Mets seem to go after starting pitching at the trade deadline?
It could be. It's looking more realistic now that they go after maybe at least like a depth starter, because they do have that depth, but it's definitely taken a severe hit with Megill, with Senga, and with the struggles of Montas and Minaya in their rehab assignments so far. You just don't know what the rotation and what the depth is going to look like in the next 5 to 6 weeks when we come around to the deadline. But I'd say that they'd at least be kicking the tires on adding another starter, which is something we didn't think we'd here because they had 7 starters for 5 spots or 7 to 8 starters for 6 spots, but 5 to 6 spots. But it just, injuries have reared their ugly head as they often do with pitching.
Now, I've been trying to ignore this, movement or comments that have been made on social media about Jacob deGrom coming back here and being traded to the Mets. And I saw the little smirk there. That is like out of the question, right? Like I should not even be thinking about this because I see it. What if about a trade for Jacob deGrom? What about bringing Jacob deGrom back? We are like, this is like way past time now with Jacob deGrom, right?
I think so. I think he's owed a lot of money too. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know why the Mets would trade for him to get him back. But I mean, he's had a good year. But his age, his injury risk, and his contract are reasons to stay away. And I don't know that he's even. I'm sure the Rangers would listen and would like to dump that contract if they're not in contention. But I don't think that a reunion with Jacob deGrom is very realistic at this point in time for the Mets.
Yeah, he's off to a hot start this season for Texas, and you just see it pop up once, and then it's been popping up all over the past week about possibly trying to trade for him. I can't see it either. I'm here with Pat Ragazzo at Ragazzo Report. Make sure you're following Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can subscribe on YouTube, which if you're watching now, that's probably what you've done already. Share it with your friends and family that's Met fans. If they like the video and can participate as well in the chat. And also, if they prefer to listen, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you can subscribe there. And also, I had to throw this out here. We got super chat, super stickers, and super thanks now available on YouTube if you want to support the Subway to Shea channel. And I appreciate that a lot. 54 people in the room right now. Appreciate you all. I want to get into next this situation that's been going on with Francisco Alvarez. Should the Mets send Francisco Alvarez back to AAA for a reset here? I'm under the impression that they should, and that came to me last night. I was trying hard to back and root for Francisco Alvarez to get out of this funk that he's in, but when you're not hitting, you have to make sure that your defense is 100%, and it just hasn't been there. The Mets lost the opener to the Braves 5-4 in 10 on Tuesday. They blew a 4-1 lead in the 8th. Questionable pitching and bullpen management by Carlos Mendoza when he wasn't getting Reed Garrett up at the start of the inning and leaving David Peterson out there kind of to hang dry there. Boneheaded blunders, I'd say, on the base pass by Juan Soto and Pete Alonso, all costly moves. But I feel like the nail in the coffin was, again, Francisco Alvarez with another pass ball that cost the Mets another run. And then on top of that, the icing on the cake was him not throwing to third to try to get this run out when they had the rundown. He goes to second, and then you hear him in the postgame press conference. He's like, yeah, I probably should have ate the ball. I don't know what's going on with Alvarez. It feels like lazy blocking has been the crux of him, and it's cost the Mets multiple times this season. And he also, we found out that he changed the sequence of pitching. When Reed Garrett was calling for fastball, he was calling for splitter. That ended up being the big hit by Marcell Ozuna to tie the game. Like I said, I think I'm on the send Alvy to AAA train right now. I know he's taking responsibility. He always does. He's always good about that during the post-game press conferences. But I think we've moved past taking responsibility, and now there's need for improvement and progress, and he has not done that right now.
Yeah, he hasn't done it right now, and he's maybe the best thing for him would be to send him down to AAA to get a little refresh, for an unspecified amount of time in the very least, because at this point, Luis Torrens should be the starting catcher, and Alvarez really, the offense is affecting the defense, and it looks like he's really, a lot of it could be mental right now with the mistake that he made last night, the few mistakes he made with the pitch sequence as well. I think that this is a player who you don't want to lose. So maybe it would benefit him to go down to AAA for a while and rediscover himself and then come back up once he feels comfortable.
We have in the chat, shout out to Marine for the $10 super chat. Really appreciate that. Alvy and Mauricio are hurting the team and need to be sent to AAA to get fixed. I think both of them, right? The kids are really struggling right now for this Mets team. They're really struggling, whether it's Mauricio, whether, Alvy, we talked about Acuna. Brett Beatty has now come back down to earth again. Mark Vientos, before he got hurt, hasn't had what the season he had last year. What do you think that the Mets should do with these guys? Because they're taking up a bottom third of the lineup. I know the top six are starting to hit, and you can even include Starling Marte. But this bottom of the lineup has been rough.
Yeah, it has been. And I mean, Mauricio was brought up before he was ready, and because it was that injury to Vientos, he basically missed 2 years of action. So, was asking a lot for the guy to come up to the majors, despite how good his numbers were in a small sample size in AAA. Alvarez, like we said, probably would benefit to go down for a little while and clear his head and kind of, work on some things. And Beatty and Vientos, they'll probably just have to live with one of them playing third and one of them DHing unless they trade for a bat at the deadline that doesn't play center field. But, whether it's a third baseman, I don't think that they trade for one, and not that there are too many out there, but, a DH type, might make sense to get one in there and kind of add to the offense. Because like you said, the bottom half of the lineup, bottom third of the lineup really has been killing them because the guys have been struggling so much. Beatty had the hot May, and now he's been in a slump, and he's dealing with the groin tightness now. He's not in the lineup again tonight. And Vientos was not hitting well, 678 OPS before he went on the IL, and he should be back soon. So we'll see what he brings once he comes back from the IL. But yeah, the young guys really have come up small for the Mets so far this year.
Carlos Rim was in the chat saying, regardless if we send Alvy back to AAA or not, it's inexcusable that Luis Torrens is not getting more or most of the playing time in his opinion. Mendy needs to be held accountable for that. Mendy's made some interesting moves, to say the least. I mentioned last night the whole thing with the pitching from Peterson to Garrett. The move with Clay Holmes and Paul Blackburn really didn't bother me because they had him on a pitch count. Paul Blackburn needed to get ready for this week and tonight's game. But, yesterday with the way the bullpen was handled, and obviously the way that Alvarez has been getting all this playing time, considering I assume he has enough, it's going in my mind, but he can be sent down. He has options. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
He's got options, right? Like, it's just surprising to me with how much he struggled and how well Terens and Sanger worked out at the first start of the month of the season, that there's really not been talks about this at all.
Yeah, no, it is surprising. But it's been getting worse, not better. And it was on full display. It's been costing the Mets games. So, in the very least, yeah, Terens should be the starting catcher, and he's in the lineup today. After Alvarez's rough night last night, but yeah, it's something it's only going to continue to grow more, and it's not going to benefit Alvarez from sitting on the bench either at the big league level. So that's why he needs to go down and play every day, get his swing back, get his mojo back on defense and calling games and blocking, and then come back up when he's ready.
Yeah, initially I was for that 50-50 split, and I'm going to post these two comments because they go in line with that. D says, although I'd like to demote Alvarez, I think he just needs time to get right. His position is too valuable. And then D Max saying, do a 50-50 split first, which is what I thought. But the defense has gotten so bad. Like, it's really bad right now. And I don't think the Mets can afford to have him as a backup, like you mentioned. It's just going to curb his development. He needs to play every day. And if he's going to do that in AAA and let Terens and Sanger, if they're not going to hit, if Alvy's not providing any hitting or power, then you might as well just go with Terens and Sanger and have the most defensive catchers there are out there.
Yeah, it would make sense to go that route because the Mets aren't really getting any offensive production from their catchers. Even Terens has gone in a slump after a hot start to the season, but he's been giving more at the plate than and behind it than Alvarez has to this point.
Any thoughts on Kevin Parada and his progress?
He's been improving. He's had a better year this year after an ugly one last year. I still don't think he's ready. He's playing in AA still. But he's someone he could play himself back into the conversation if he continues to develop and show signs of promise at the minor league level like he has so far this year.
Nelson Cruz in the chat saying, hope Alvy got a receipt for those change the swing lessons. Look, he worked with Eric Chavez. He's worked with JD Martinez, and nothing seems to be working for him on the offensive front. When you had a guy who hit 23 home runs in 2023, and now he's only have 2 home runs, and we're June already. He's really struggled a lot, and I hope that he figures it out, considering that he was the number 1 prospect in all of baseball for a certain amount of time. It's a real struggle to see him struggle this hard. Marine in the chat saying, do you think if Beatty gets more playing time, he could do better? Because it feels like he's, hardly playing. They're doing the split with him and Mauricio. Obviously, he'll get some time at second base. He's hurt at the moment, but will he get more time, do you think?
I think that he should. I mean, he showed a lot of signs in May, and he's hit for power this year, and he's shown at times too that he can play kind of really strong defense at third base. So I think that Beatty deserves to play every day right now, and when Vientos comes back, they should utilize Vientos as a DH on most days. And I know Marte's bat's coming around too, so he should get some more DH bats as well. But they got to find a way to play all 3 players regularly, and I think that they will.
As we wrap up this short abbreviated Subway to Shea podcast, I want to discuss with you the DH. Will the Mets DH please stand up? Because we have right now Jared Young in there. And okay, he started the game yesterday, but then they allowed him to continue to play, deep into that game. And he had one of the most horrific bats in that 10th inning to strike out on 3 pitches, not even give the Mets a chance, not even move over a runner. Because I already knew going into that inning with Young, Mauricio, and Alvy that it just wasn't going to end well. And, to all the luck, it just didn't happen there. Jared Young's not working. Vientos, Winker are on the IL. Marte can't play every day or even a full game. Yeah. So the Mets do really need a DH. I don't know if they go and trade or what, but they need something soon.
Yeah, they do. And I think that's why I said when Vientos comes back, which should be pretty soon, now that he started his rehab assignment, they should look at giving Vientos some at bats, some more at bats at DH, and having him and Marte split time there because Vientos has really struggled at third base this year, and Beatty's the much better option defensively. So, yeah, I think the Mets should focus on, having Vientos DH some more and obviously sprinkling in Marte, and playing him regularly as well, considering the way that he's hit as of late.
I did D in the chat asking about Joey Meneses, who's down in AAA right now. He's hitting pretty well there. The possibility of someone from AAA, whether it's Meneses or somebody else, getting an opportunity.
I mean, it's possible. He's not too high up on the depth chart, but yeah, I guess if the Mets don't go out and acquire someone at DH, it is a possibility that they could try Meneses there. If these struggles persist and if Marte goes back into a slump and they don't want to have Vientos DH on most days, then I think Meneses could be an option to at least to give him a shot, see what he has at the big league level.
Truman Quinn is saying the bottom of the order. If I could bring this up here, there we go. The bottom of the order is a waste of an inning. And then I'm going to follow that up with this comment. You really don't know what a prospect is until he's called up. I would give Parada a chance at some point if Alvy sinks lower. Look, this has been a problem, I think, for years now that the Mets have had trouble getting a real DH to come in here. I mean, they tried with JD Martinez, and for the first half of the season last year, he was pretty good. But he struggled in the second half and into the postseason. They've always struggled with having a DH. They've always struggled with the bottom of the lineup. And now these prospects have just not panned out. And I do feel like they've been given every opportunity now at this point to make way and to be a part of this team. And it doesn't seem like any one of them wants to grab it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think the struggles of young players in the major leagues, and they're going to have their successes, they're going to have their struggles. Vientos had a really big year last year and then struggled this year. Beatty, has had short spurts of success at the big league level, but then has had his fair share of struggles. And Mauricio missed so much time and he just hasn't been ready. And Alvarez too. I mean, Alvarez hit 25 home runs in 2023 as a rookie. And then he's had major hand and thumb surgeries the last 2 years as well. So, you have to wonder how much the hand injury and the surgery is affecting him. And we saw it affect his power last year when he tore his thumb and had to get surgery. And you wonder how much the hamate bone surgery has been affecting him this year as well at the plate.
Now we know that Rafael Devers got traded from the Red Sox to the Giants. He could play third base. He can DH. Was there any consideration at all for this type of move? I know his contract is expensive, but I mean, you add him to the lineup, and let's just say Pete Alonso goes to free agency and asks for more money now. You got someone in place. Was there any thought at all about Rafael Devers and a trade being made here?
Not that I heard, but I also, the story is that the Red Sox weren't necessarily shopping him around either to a lot of teams. There were some teams in on him, and the Giants, wound up landing him, but they weren't really. It was kind of almost sounded like a Luka Doncic situation where the Mavericks weren't shopping him and only talked to the Lakers about him, and the Red Sox weren't really talking to too many teams about Devers, which I don't understand. If you're going to trade him, then you might as well try and get the best package available from the best team available, with the team with the best package to offer. But, it sounds like it didn't go down this way. And it's unknown if the Mets were ever in on him or showed any interest, even though he does seem like a great fit, besides that big contract, over the long term. But, in the immediate future, he's a fit, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't gotten to see him play third base, and I don't know how good of a third baseman he is, but I think he can match that with the offense he provides. To at least either play there and get that opportunity or DH. I thought it would have been a fit there. I know a lot of people wouldn't want to trade some prospects, but that's just me personally. But Carlos Ramos in the chat saying that's actually not the comment I wanted from Carlos. Here we go. Does Pat think that Drew Gilbert gets a shot at center field or is traded before that happens?
That's a really good question. Drew Gilbert's been performing pretty well at AAA. He missed a lot of basically the whole season last year. So this is, he's getting a full season in AAA now. Yeah, I mean, if they don't acquire a center fielder at the deadline, then I could see Drew Gilbert potentially, getting his shot, towards the end of the year, or if not, then, getting a shot to play next year. And yeah, this is a guy who they got in the trade for Verlander. He's been on the team's radar for a little while now. Yeah, I think that, unless they go big all in for a player at the deadline this year, which I don't really see, I think that he probably gets a shot in the majors before he winds up getting traded, if he ever does wind up getting traded.
Considering that we're talking about these prospects here, you have to assume that, Nolan McLean as well as Brandon Sproat, probably more McLean, is going to see some time at some point this year. I mean, he's been outstanding for the AAA Syracuse, and he has just pitched well ever since, every move he's made, he's pitched well. Do you think we see Nolan McLean at some point?
Yeah, I think towards the end of the year, it's definitely a realistic possibility, especially if the injuries persist here in the rotation. McLean, it has been the one who's been the most consistent at the AAA level, and yeah, he seems like he's the most major league ready right now. You can't discount Jonah Tong. Jonah Tong has had a great year in AA, but McLean has been performing at AAA, and he's the closest to the majors, obviously, and he's shown more consistency than Sproat up until this point, who has improved as of late, but he's shown the most consistency out of the two so far in AAA.
Now, you mentioned Tong. I assume that he's going to make the jump to AAA soon as well.
Yeah, that seems like it's realistic. He's sub 2 ERA. Leads the minors in strikeouts, I believe. It seems like it's only a matter of time before he gets brought up to AAA, and rightfully so.
Pat, I can't thank you enough for joining me today on this little kind of abbreviated edition of Subway to Shea. It's great to have you on and your reporting. You could check out all of Pat's stuff. I have everything linked up there. You can read all his articles on the description of this episode of Subway to Shea. Let everyone know what else you're working on, what you got coming up.
Yeah, just check out my coverage of the trade deadline. It's coming, and it's coming up fast in the next 5 weeks or so. And yeah, covering the All-Star voting and the All-Star game selections, and yeah, just the day-to-day coverage of the team. So check my workout on Twitter and Instagram at Ragazzo Report. And you could also check my workout at si.com/MLB/Mets.
Pat Ragazzo, Mets reporter, publisher for Mets on SI, part of Sports Illustrated. That wraps up the Subway to Shea podcast, episode 204. You can follow me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you like this video and share it. Be a part of the chat every time we do a live, as well as if you want to listen to the show, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And thanks for the support to the Subway to Shea podcast with your super chat. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you for the super stickers as well as super thanks, now available on YouTube. For Anthony Rivera, for Pat Ragazzo, this has been the Subway to Shea podcast. Always remember, let's go Mets.